Today our topic is linear functions. So our learning target is how can I translate between the graph, table, and equation of a linear function. First off, some vocabulary that we need to know. Linear function, a relation that relates one input to exactly one output that creates a straight line. It's 1 to 1. Each input only gives out one number, and it's going to create a straight line. Slope is our change in y over our change in x. Rise over run. Or we also have the equation for slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which you can find on your formula sheet for the 8th grade MCA. Y-intercept is the point where a line crosses the y-axis, where x equals 0. So if we think about a coordinate plane, we have our y-axis and our x-axis. If this was the line on the graph, the y-intercept would be this point right here. And at that point, x equals 0. Your coordinate point would be 0, and then some coordinate for y, wherever it's crossing the y-axis. The opposite would then be the x-intercept, is where the point where the line crosses the x-axis, where y equals 0. So if we look at that point right there, that would be your x-intercept. And at that point, y would equal 0. So your coordinate would be something for x and then 0 for y. And then we have slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, where m, that's your slope, and b is your y-intercept. And then another important thing to note is Mr. Slope Guy, which you can see on your notes. This just reminds us of the different types of slope. We have 4 different types of slope. We have positive slope, which is right there. We have negative slope, which is when you go down the mountain. We have undefined slope. So vertical lines have undefined slopes. Now vertical lines are x equals lines, or x equals a number, like x equals 4. And then we have horizontal lines, which if you see these little circles around the side, they're supposed to represent zeros. That has 0 slope, because you're not going up or down, you're just like straight across. And these lines are y equals a number line. It's like y equals 4. They don't have an x in them. All right. Graphing from a table. We want to be able to take a table and convert it into a graph. So we have y equals negative 2x minus 1. Now normally when we fill in a function table, we like to use 0, 1, 2, 3. Start with 0. It's a good spot. That means we get our y-intercept as well. Y equals negative 2x minus 1. We're taking these numbers and we're plugging them in for our x variable, because that is what they are representing. So for the first one, we do y equals negative 2 times 0 minus 1. Negative 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. If you are not strong in your operations, you can feel free to use your calculator on these operations. If you type in this piece right here, that will give you this number right there. All you have to do is make sure you type it in correctly. So if you're struggling with the operation, you want to make sure you're correct, always use your calculator to check. Next one, we plug in 1. So y equals negative 2 times 1 minus 1. Negative 2 times 1, negative 2, minus 1, negative 3. Plug in 2. Same concept, we get negative 5. And then plug in 3, and we should get negative 7. Now what this table does is it gives us ordered pairs. It gives us an x coordinate and it gives us a y coordinate. So right here we have 0, negative 1. Then we have 1, negative 3. We have 2, negative 5. And we have 3, negative 7. And all we have to do is plot those points on our coordinate plane. So y-axis, x-axis, 0, negative 1 would be 0. And then down 1 right there. 1, negative 3 right there. 2, negative 5. and 3, -7. Now, if we look back at our equation, y equals -2x minus 1, it is in slope-intercept form. Our slope is -2, and our y-intercept is -1. So if we look at our graph, we should notice that we cross our y-axis right there at -1, so that y-intercept is correct. Our slope is negative, which is why our graph is going down the mountain. It matches Mr. Slope Guy with that negative slope. It looks like a negative slope. So we should be able to take those key pieces and recognize what they are doing to our graph and making sure we use those to check our work and make sure we're on the right track. Last piece is just graphing from slope-intercept form, not even needing to make a table. So to graph from slope-intercept form, we want to use y equals mx plus b. First, identify your m. M is 2/3. B is 5. Now, when we start our graph, we always want to start with our y-intercept. We want to start by plotting that on our y-axis, because that's where we cross our y-axis. We cross at 5, so we count up to 5 and put a point right there. Slope of 2/3, that is our rise over our run, which means we are going up to right 3, or we can also do the opposite. We can go down to left 3. Sometimes we'll need to use both movements, sometimes we won't. So if we start at our starting point, our y-intercept, and count up 2 and then right 3, we end up right there. And then we can keep following that pattern till we have no more room. And then if we would like to, we can go back to our starting point and then follow the opposite pattern, which is down to left 3, and get more points on our graph. If you are working with a linear function and your points do not make a straight line, that is a key sign that you did something wrong. Your points should always make a straight line because they are linear functions, which means they're going to make a straight line. That is all the notes that I have for you today. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel.